Awesome. Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. I cannot tell you how fired up I am that you're here today to check out this fantastic webinar called Can You Build the Perfect Salesperson? But before we get into that, I always love to see where people are calling in from because we have clients as wide as Seattle and all the way into Malaysia and Auckland, New Zealand. So if you will, real quick in the chat, just type in the city or state that you're here from. Love to see who all's showing up. Okay? Yeah, this is awesome. I cannot wait to actually talk through this process with you and how we have figured out how you can build the perfect salesperson. Now, here's an interesting thing, and I was so fascinated by it, was I wasn't sure whether or not you could. So we're going to jump in today and we're going to talk about this just kind of unknown thing that I don't think anyone has ever been able to scientifically prove or put a process to that can absolutely elevate your sales team regardless of how skilled they are today. So let's jump into this and we'll talk about the findings from the State of Sales Skills in 2024, our Engineering Excellence Report. So I want you to know that this is the one thing I'm trying to get through here today, is that you can build a sales team that outperforms your competitors, exceeds quota without overpaying for new salespeople or buying lead gen services. And this is based on our proprietary analysis of just under 13,000 salespeople in 2023. So this is something that you can really lean into as data-based rather than just gut and opinion. What are we going to talk about today? So first, I'm going to tell you right up front who this webinar is for and who I think will get the most value out of it. We'll talk a little bit about the current state of achievement, or as you'll see, lack of achievement in sales. I want to explain to you my hypothesis that led to this research, and then what we found in our data analysis. We'll show you that there is a specific path from good to great sales teams. And we're going to talk about how you can implement these learnings in 5 simple steps. As a bonus, we'll show you as we go through that how we actually do it, so you'll actually see something as a baseline of how you might implement yourself. And then I'm going to give you access. You'll become some of the people with the first access to this groundbreaking report, the State of Sales Skills in 2024. Engineering Excellence. Okay, who is this workshop for? Well, first, our specialty is working with B2B companies, so you'll see a theme there. And we have 3 particular, say, personas, as you would say, that I think will get the most out of this particular webinar. First is, you're a C-suite leader, an owner, or a founder. And you're trying to put together a scalable, repeatable way. You're trying to answer the big questions. What can I do to actually position myself against my competitors, industry, and market, regardless of what the economy does over the next 24 months? Then sales leaders and managers. I think this is going to open your eyes to how we can proactively go after, coach, and think about the improvement of our teams and ourselves. And then we're going to talk about, say, the sales enablement side of things. How do you actually go through and enable the teams based upon the data that we're going to provide you and the data that you'll get access to in order to improve the performance of your teams? So if you're in one of those 3 buckets, I can tell you whether you're a founder and you're selling yourself and you got 2 sellers, or you're one of the biggest companies in the world like we've had as clients also with 500-600 sellers, I think you're going to get a tremendous amount out of this webinar that you can take and start to apply today. But tell me this, if you're in one of these 3 spots, do me a favor real quick, jump into the comments again. And if you're in C-suite or in ownership, type a C, right? If you're a leader or manager, type an L. And if you're in sales enablement, type an E. Love to know who's actually in the room so that we can have some conversations and I can adjust on the fly a little bit as we go through this process and try to help you improve the state of your sales teams. So type it in the comments real quick. A C, if you're an owner or C-suite, an L if you're a sales leader, or an E if you're in sales enablement. So type those in so we can look at it. Now, one thing I do want to mention is please be active in the comments. Be active in the chat, because what we want to do is see what it is you're thinking. What are the things that stand out to you that are different, that you hadn't thought about? What are the questions that you have? My team will be in and out of the chat throughout this webinar and be able to actually answer some of those questions or point you in different directions. So please be active. Don't be afraid. Don't just be a bystander, and actually get in here and let's have real conversations. But here's why you should stay until the end, though. I know I've mentioned it, but this is groundbreaking research on how you can build the perfect salesperson. This is almost 50 pages compiled in a way that I would have wanted it when I was a sales leader or a CEO of a large sales force. It's everything from the summaries and the key findings. In the first 15 pages, you'll get almost everything you need in order to know what the path looks like to take a team from good to great. Now, what's also awesome about this is we compare what's the difference between the bottom 10% of performers and the top 10%. And then we give you more and more detail on every individual attribute that we tested, how it's different between the different stratospheres of sellers. And so you have almost 50 pages, 48, I think, that you'll be able to go through, and you'll be able to take and use it as your guidebook and your framework for how to develop world-class sales teams over the course of the next 12 and 24 months. So stick around to the end. I'm going to show you exactly how you can get access to this today. But let's back up with the big picture. Why am I asking, can you build the perfect salesperson? And so I want to talk you through it. And the reason I'm asking is this, is that sales teams, results are getting worse. The ROI on these teams is actually decreasing over time, and that's not a good spot for us to be in. So here's an example. I mean, look at this for quota attainment from 22 through to 23 to last year. The red indicates 2023. The green indicates 2022. And in all cases, except for SDR, your appointment setters, it's down significantly. You know, the strategic account executive from 52 to 38, that's unbelievable. That's almost a 25% decrease in their quota attainment. The small business AE, they're down. The mid-manager AE or mid-market AE, they're down from 50 to 40. That's a 20% decrease in quota attainment. Enterprise AE is down. Account manager is down. And I said, well, I know 2023 has been a tough year compared to some of the stuff that happened in the previous years, but maybe it's just where I got the data. So let's see what others people say about this data. Well, here it goes. Hiring quota in tech. Hitting quota in tech has been increasingly challenging. You can see this. It shows it's down. The state of sales, it says in the first half of 2023, only 27% of reps made their quota. 39% of deals slipped. And if you wonder why deals slipping matter so much, your win rate gets cut almost in half when deals actually slip. So give me in the chat real quick. Let me know, are you seeing this? So if you have your reps, and if you have more than 50% of your reps achieving almost 90% of quota or more, hit yes. If you have less than 50% of your reps, so they're not achieving the quota you want, type N in the chat. Let's just see how this compares to the actual population of people that we have here. Because I think the most interesting thing that we have to understand is this. 91% of organizations failed at sales quotas this year, their sales forecast. Think about that, 91%. We often talk about the individual seller with the ignoring of the organization or the company as a whole. And if you look at the 8 conditions listed here, market conditions, lack of experience, misaligned sales activities, etc. 6 of those 8 are within your control. 6 of those 8 are within your control. And so we're going to show you a path to where you can actually control some of these things and improve the outcomes of your sales teams. Because what we can say today is sales teams are producing less return on investment than maybe they ever have in history. But let's go a little bit deeper. Why is it happening? Well, the first reason it's happening is, believe it or not, you've probably seen or heard, but they're only spending 24% of their time selling. The most disturbing thing about this, besides the fact that that means less than 1 in 4 hours, so 2 hours out of 8, I even did the math wrong. So that's silly. But just in 2000, this number was about 32%. And so in the last 3 years, this sales tech stacks, the difficulty of getting through to people, whatever, they're spending less and less time selling. And the problem that really compounds itself is sales is the second most in-demand job in the world. So now you have people spending less time doing what they need to produce a return and to be successful. And if you haven't noticed, pricing for many of those positions, or the people you would consider experienced, has gone up significantly. But here's the other side of it. Because you're having to pay a premium for the experienced folks, there's a lot less experienced folks coming into the market. We have less experience selling. I mean, think about it this way. Even if you took 2 people of the exact same kind of ilk at 10 years, and they're only spending 24% of their time selling, how much longer does it take them to get up to speed? Or if you're hiring people who have less experience in sales, whether they're younger or older, they're also struggling mightily. I think the other thing that happens here is that you just got to look at this. I mean, when was the last time you were interviewing candidates? And I'll tell you what, when I look at resumes, it's a year here, a year here, a year here, a year and 6 months here. Turnover is through the roof in sales, partly because they're able to jump for small incremental increases in salary. And then what else? Last, they're feeling burnt out. So it's interesting, as much as remote work and those things have contributed to this, they're still feeling burnt out even though they get to work out of the house. Some of that is maybe they're answering emails at 9 o'clock at night because their office is just down the hall, and in the office, they can hear their Outlook and their Slack ding, 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 ding. And so they're working harder and longer than they have, but it's not doing the right things to influence results. And we would be absolutely remiss if we didn't talk about the impact of sales leadership, which is completely understated. And I'll give you 2 stats. One, in the last 2 years, 50% of organizations have a new sales leader. Look around you, and the sales leaders that you see have probably only been, and you might be one of them, in the organization for under 2 years. And now think about this. As things get harder and making quotas harder, and as a sales leader, look, my heart's with you. Because a lot of times ownership and executives will tie your hands behind your back because they don't understand how complex the idea is of building a really top performing sales crew. So they don't give you budget. They don't give you the other things. And if your team's not making your forecast or your quotas, that's why 85% of you are considering taking another job. And it bears out in the data because the average sales leader is only in their role about 18 months. So these are the things that are contributing to such poor performance in the state of sales. So I'll pause here. Can we all at least agree that this is a big challenge we must address? Now, just give me a Y or an N for yes or no in the chat and in the comments, because this is a massive challenge. You want to know why people are talking about AI replacing sales? It's because sales has become so ineffective that they don't understand how AI can't replace it and be more effective. So give me a Y or an N in the comments or the chat. Yes, this is something that we must address, and that's why we're here, Ken. Or no, and that'll tell me you're here just to kind of see what's up, which is cool too. Those are all good reasons. So my thought is this: there has to be a path to build the perfect salesperson. But am I wrong? I mean, I just didn't understand. I cannot understand in my time in this business, which is 8 years of sales training, consulting, processing, working with some of the fastest growing companies in the world. We've helped three companies become unicorns. We've helped companies grow from 2 to 600% in incredibly short times. But I'm like, but why do some get it and some don't? I mean, I know there's $20 billion that's spent on training for your sales teams each year. And I know there's a lot of great sales trainers and enablement folks, whether they're outside resources or they're within companies. And I've met them and they're fantastic. Companies want their people to succeed, right? That's the course that we think we set up, or the agreement with them. So it led me to just really kind of be befuddled. Why do some people flourish while others, well, they don't? And what we're seeing from the data that we just talked about is the vast majority of sellers out there, salespeople in the organizations that you're working with, through, and for, are not being successful. And it drives me crazy because we have some great success stories. So I know what we do helps, and there's people who can do it. You know, Randy, I've known Randy since 2011, and he's been the number one salesperson since 2017 in fintech. Once he got it, he got it. Rodrigo hadn't sold a thing for the company that he was with. And then we came in and he sold $2.5 million in the next 6 months. He sold just under 5 after that. And then 2 years later, he sold $21.7 million, became the number one seller in his company. And he sold more than $70 million over the course of 5 years. That's just one individual seller. Can you imagine how fantastic it would be if you could get one person to push up that type of success? So I know we've had success, and it's still just, I'm like, but why do some of these people flourish so much and some struggle? Well, over the course of the last few months, I finally had my aha moment. So in 6 months, I've been talked to over 100 CEOs. And here's what the problem comes down to. They think sales is an art. So what does that look like in real life? Well, you, sales manager, leader, CEO, anyone on this call, maybe you're hiring because of the rep's previous client base. Maybe you're hiring the rep because you're only hiring reps with previous experience in your industry. You might have the belief you're either good at sales or you're not. You're not sure what drives success. You need entrepreneurial people, and most of the time that means we don't have sales processes and things dialed in, so somebody has a framework to follow. And in some of the more complex sales where we need pursuit teams and subject matter experts and teams in pursuit of deals, they tolerate the gift of gab and the lack of technical experience. It's seen as a necessary evil. And partly that's because their lack of success in hiring. Well, I had always argued, I'm like, no, sales is science, sales is science, sales is science. And then I realized something. Nobody ever asked me to prove it. So now I want to prove it. So remember this, the last thing, if you're playing every call by your gut, there's not a specific framework, intent, pre-call planning, it's also an idea that, well, sales is an art. So here's my hypothesis that led to us doing all this data analysis. My hypothesis is the act of selling is mostly science. Now you wonder how I can say that. I can say that for a couple reasons. One, the art of selling can be systematized to make the buyer respect, value, and trust the salesperson. So that's first. The art of selling can be systematized to make the buyer respect, value, and trust. Notice how I say respect, value, and trust, not know, like, and trust. Next, this is true from the conversation to the close of a sale. We can systematize how a seller interacts with their prospects, leading to a much higher percentage of closed deals. Think about it this way. If 3/4 of the things within a sales process are structured, systematized, and you can follow them, that allows that extra 25% to be art, to be the how good are you at applying the things? How do you add value, those types of things. But without the systematization of it, we're relying on that small percentage to actually carry us through all of selling. And that's a problem. So my hypothesis is the act of selling is mostly science. So if I was going to prove this, what am I going to do? And actually, let me digress. If you think selling is a science, put an S in the comments. If you think it's an art, stick an A in the comments. Just your opinion. Because quite frankly, at this point in this webinar, I haven't changed your mind on anything. So whatever you're thinking is the right answer. So go ahead and drop that in the chat in the comments. So here's what I did. I said, okay, I want to prove that it's mostly science. And so first, I knew that we needed to measure competencies in skill sets across the 21 core selling skills. That was the first thing that we needed to understand. Second, we had to be able to measure the skill sets or attitudes around some of the intangibles. Because one of the things that gets missed when we talk about sellers is this. Their brain can get in the way of the execution of a skill that they already know how to do. But their brain makes them uncomfortable, so they don't do it. So we have to figure out, can we measure some of those intangibles that might get in the way of absorbing new skills? Next, using the most recent data. I said, you know what? There's plenty of stuff where they talk about sales skills and what should have been done for the last 50 years. But I said, I want to only analyze the data on what the difference is between the top and the bottom and all the different stratospheres of it from 2023. Which then created this challenge that we have to make sure we segment the sales reps according to skill set level. How good are they at each of these skill sets versus other performance segments? And then I needed a large sample size. If this sounds like a daunting and challenging task, you're right. I called up a good friend who's actually in Asia, and I said, hey, you want to create this evaluation for me? Or not for me, with me. You want to do this thing? And he's like, nope, sounds horrible. Because he knew how complicated and crazy it was. So what did I do? I turned to my partner. I have a partner called Objective Management Group. An Objective Management Group has been doing evaluations and assessment of salespeople for more than 30 years. They're largely considered the number one sales assessment for interviews and candidates in the market, and they've held that status for so long. So what I did is I said, okay, Objective Management Group, let's work together, and I'll use your data, and we'll analyze it, and we'll figure out whether or not we can actually build the perfect salesperson. So what we did, we narrowed down a pool of 2.5 million people over the last 30 years to 12,744 evaluations that were conducted in 2023. The average evaluation of a salesperson lasted 46 minutes, which means that it was just about 9,500 hours that sellers sat in and took these evaluations about their skill sets. We took a worldwide industry agnostic view. When we work directly with clients, we can break it down directly to the industry. But I really wanted to keep this and say, okay, largely, what do we know to be true? There were 170 attributes that we were able to compare. That's an insane amount of data. We analyzed the skill sets in 5 different levels of sellers, and I'll explain that in a minute. And we had one question to answer, and that was it. Can you build the perfect salesperson? So without further ado, let's jump into it. We're not going to go deep into all of the learnings because there's just way too many of them. But I want to give you a taste of how you can take and apply even the information just from this webinar just today. So first, I said, let's look at the top 10 differences between the bottom sellers, bottom 10% of sellers, and the top 10% of sellers. That's what I want to know. Like, what is the gap that we have to overcome if we want to take somebody up the levels and take them from good to great? And what I found was fascinating. So in the top 10, there's a few things going on here, right? And you can see it's qualifying and sales process and farming and selling value, supportive buy cycle, which I'll explain in a bit, comfortable discussing money, reaching decision makers, commitment, social selling, and closing. So what's interesting is I wanted to answer the question, how much better are they at each of the different attributes? How much better are they? So what we found was this: the top 10% of sellers are 3 to 7 times more skilled. They score 3 to 7 times higher in each of these skill sets. So that explains a lot about why the top 10% are so much more successful. But look at some of the attributes that are listed here. Supportive buy cycle. That's about how you buy and make major purchases in your life. Comfortable discussing money. Commitment. So 3 of the top 10 aren't actually the fact that they're better at a specific sales skill, but they have the grit and the mindset to be able to execute. If you look at commitment, 477% higher level of commitment to their own success. So this started to unravel some stuff about what we were looking at. Like, can we train on individual attributes, or what can we do? Which one of these, if you were looking at this list, which one of these do you feel like your team needs the most help doing? Because it's always interesting to me to see whether or not the data lines up with what your gut feels. Because we can tell you this is the data from a large pool, which means it won't be specific yet for your company. But which of these top 10 differences do you think your team needs the most help with? And then second, did we miss something? There's a lot more attributes, but do you think there was something else that you're surprised didn't show up in the top 10 differences? All right, so now we'll take this data and we'll say, what are companies missing? Like, what's the problem? Because the truth is, the way that we look at hiring, coaching, and training sellers is off a little bit based on what we found. So first, skills are synergistic. Combinations of skills lead to results, not individual skills. Like social selling, CRM, consultative selling. They add to each other the ability to be more successful in each. If you're very good at sales process, you tend to be better at reaching decision makers and negotiation. So here's one thing the companies and sales trainers all throughout the world are doing wrong. They're teaching a single skill set. They're not combining them to get the synergistic and the compounded impact that you can get. They're teaching a skill like closing, but they're not teaching the things that are synergistically tied to closing to help improve the adoption and the success rate. Second, coaching. Now, this blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. There is no difference in the coachability of the elite versus the weak seller. Let me say that again. There's no difference in the coachability of the elite versus the weak seller. That's just amazing. Because isn't that one of the hiring criteria that you hear so often? I want to hire coachable people, to the point where some have I don't know if you can say it out loud these days, but it's at least a subconscious rule where they want to hire athletes because they were coached in success, etc. But man, if there's no difference in the coachability, are we looking at the wrong attributes to determine who could be on our team? Relationship building. Man, so this is one of the things, like the gift of gab and those types of things are what we talk about. But think about it this way. Out of 29 skill sets, it was ranked as only the 24th in terms of importance. As in terms of the difference in the ability and the skill set of the bottom 10% to the top 10%. It was 24th. And once again, we're hiring based on relationship building. Do we feel they can? Do we feel that based on their previous book of business, they have relationships? Man, just think about that. Like, which one of these surprises you more, coaching or relationship building? Put it in the comments. I mean, this just blew my mind. And then the other interesting thing was this. The way they make major purchases ranked 7th in the most significant differences in skill sets. We will often say that companies buy the way they sell. So if it's Walmart, they sell on price, then they're buying from vendors on price, right? If it's Peloton, they're buying on quality and outcomes because they're selling on outcomes. That also comes through with sellers. And so it was amazing to me that if you think about this, this shows up in the top 10. And I'm going to bet that 90% of the people on this call have never tried to understand how somebody goes about making major purchases and how that would apply to them selling the product or services in your company. It's amazing to me. So what else does the data tell us? First, consultative selling is particularly prevalent among the top 10% of salespeople. That doesn't surprise us so much. The question is, how do you do it? Second, CRM proficiency. So here's good news for all you sales managers, leaders, and CEOs who keep jamming all your people to get better at CRM and get their data in. Top performers utilize these tools more effectively than their lower performing counterparts. It actually works. Next, we have to be aware of the following. There is a progression of skills. I can't tell you how often we meet people and they're like, hey, why can't you just come in for 2 days, teach us, and leave? Because it's a progression of skills. And you'll see that as we lay out the training path to go from good to great. But the analysis said there's a progression in skill proficiency and as salespeople advance from lower to high performance levels. So we have to understand it's reinforcement. Sales is like one of the few places in the world where we say, hey, we'll teach you it once and then you can remember it for the rest of your life. That doesn't work. You know, sometimes they'll call salespeople like sales athletes. Well, those athletes practice. Can't be like Allen Iverson for those of you who are basketball fans. We're talking about practice? Because he just wanted to show up for the game. We don't want to do that if we're in sales. Here we go. This is exciting. This is awesome. So how many people want to know how to build the perfect salesperson? Wave a hand, give me something exciting, an exclamation point, something in the comments. I'm going to show you right now a sample path on how you can build the perfect salesperson within your organization. And the first thing we have to do is we have to understand the sales percentile index, which was put together by our friends at Objective Management Group. And the sales percentile index tells us how individual sellers stack up and what area of skill set they have versus their peers. Because think about it this way. Don't you want your sellers to be better than your competitors? Because that's how you'll be able to understand and outperform them. So let's look at what the sales percentile index looks like. So first, we measured the bottom 10%. We consider anyone in the bottom 50% of the sales percentile index what we would call a weak performer or weak skill sets. We figure anybody between 50 and 83% are serviceable skill set sellers. From 83 to 94% are considered strong sellers. And then from 94 to 100 are considered the elite skill set sellers. So these are the people who test the highest as far as the individual skill sets and how the total combination comes. And then we compare this against a pool of their peers so you can understand where you sit. So let's talk about how we can use the sales percentile index to actually structure training programs. So here's what we do. Let's talk. How do we go from the bottom 10% to a weak seller? Well, here's part of this challenge that you need to understand. The focus here is on belief and mindsets about selling. This is the hardest thing in the world for you to change. Outlook, controlling emotions, whether they need approval, if they take personal responsibility, if they have self-limiting beliefs, are they motivated, are they okay talking and discussing money? So the focus here is beliefs and mindsets about selling. And this is a path if you have some of those people and you want to put time into them. I would generally say this is the group you want to stay away from in hiring for your organization, because it's going to be a long, long road to get them into a place where they're serviceable. So now that we've taken people and we've said, okay, now we have weak sellers. And let's say that you have people from the 40th percentile, into the 40th, 50th percentile, and we're trying to make them more serviceable. What does that look like? Well, the focus here is practical skills. Remember, we said foundational skills is where we need to focus. So you'll see things like closing, and the difference is to go from weak to serviceable, they'll become almost 100% better, right? The improvement's 91.67% on closing. They'll get 71% higher on the skill sets of reaching decision makers, which, by the way, there's a 347% improvement in win rates and close deals when you're able to reach decision makers. And then there's social selling. And social selling is not just what you think it is about LinkedIn. It's about the awareness of your social network. Sales process. Sales process complements so many other skills, and the improvement 65%. Comfortable discussing money, consultative selling, and qualifying. These are foundational skills that would take your team from weak to serviceable. Now let's say that we have people who are all starting in the top 50% of sellers. And we want to take them from that kind of 50 to 70% all the way to be somewhere between the 83rd and 94th percentile, right? So let's say we took the team from weak to serviceable. We saw the improvements we wanted. And now we're like, well, how do we structure the training for the next level? Here's how you do it. You work on a progression for stronger sellers involving honing their advanced skills. Now, the underlying components on this slide are things that we started teaching, moving them from weak to serviceable as foundations. But you'll notice that we're actually repeating that while adding a couple things. We've added the ability to take responsibility for their own success and failures, and we've added farming, because really good sellers have an opportunity. They understand how to expand accounts and go from relationship to relationship looking for business. But we continue to improve. Look, closing was almost 100% improvement from weak to serviceable. Now it's 47% from serviceable to strong seller. You'll see that reaching decision makers. That was a big gap and jump in improvement we had from the weak to the serviceable. And now from serviceable to strong, again, there's another 35% better jump. So this is how we're going to move them up into that strong performance level. So what does it take to go from strong to elite? What does it take if you've got some of these people? Well, the elite seller is focused on refining and mastering a diverse set of skills. And look at this. Responsibility improves again. Like, we're taking more and more responsibility, the better and better our skill sets get. Closing continues to improve. Farming continues to improve. We start to understand how the way we make major purchases actually impacts how we sell in our supported buy cycle. We're improving our account management skills. Reaching decision makers again. Social selling again. It's iterative, and you can see that as we go bigger and bigger, yes, the improvements are smaller and smaller, but the impact on revenue can be exponential. The training program like this is compounding in impact. You'll typically see that any training program is not going to see any meaningful move in your actual win rates and results for about 6 months, because they have to adopt it, understand it, enhance it, and take the compounding effect. So that gives you an idea, like, it's super cool. And we can actually do this where we take it from your team and we say, you've got 10 sellers. Let's see where they fall. Let's see who should be where, and let's see what that progression should look like. So there's different ways you can do this, but let me show you how you can implement this in 5 simple steps, and then what to do and how we do it. So 5 steps. First, know your starting point. Second is you make change management easy and high impact. Make it repeatable and scalable. You have to drive success early, and then optimize for winning sales. Don't just leave it there in a vacuum. So let's break down each of these points a little quicker. So knowing your starting point, you have to identify the hidden sales blockers, and you have to identify where their skill sets sit in terms of where they sit in the sales percentile index versus others. You then can uncover the stealthy issues that sabotage sales success. Things like grit, mindset, and then traditional tactical sales skill sets. You need to be able to answer the big questions. Do you have the right people on the team? Who do you need to coach? Who can actually make their way up? Who's committed to succeeding? Who's in the right role and who needs to be in a different role? And then whether you're a sales leader or you're in sales enablement or you're a CEO, we have to understand the ROI. I think the fundamental challenge that most of the sales training world has is they don't actually put an ROI number in front of you. You call them up and you say, hey, I need some training on helping to make my people better closers. And they go, cool, here's our closing course. Well, let's look at the totality. Let's understand, hey, if we invest $100,000, if we invest $20,000, how much is the potential upside and how long will it take? It's a great way to really start to understand and isolate where you are today. So how do we do that? As I said, I'd show you. Step one with us is the first thing we do is we take our clients through the objective management group through their sales effectiveness and improvement analysis. We do the same evaluation with you and with our clients that we did and analyzed for the 12,744 sellers that we took the data from for this study. But then we take it a step further. That then leads into the revenue acceleration roadmap. And the revenue acceleration roadmap is a short roadmap, 5-page document that's going to answer the questions you need answered. How much can we improve? How long is it going to take? Where are we really good with our people? Where are we really bad? What do our systems and processes look like? And we're going to give you a short, abbreviated version that you can actually take and tactically apply. Second, make change management easy and high impact. You got to create customized learning paths. These should be focused on the highest ROI skills for each skill level set. We'll look at those a lot of times like a 101, 201, 301. Or we'll change the stratosphere where it's not just a training, but the 201 and 301 might be more one-on-one coaching. How do we get the impact that we need? Weekly reporting on the training progress should go to the entire team. Let's be realistic. You can learn a lot from the people who aren't doing the work that you've asked them to do. This helps with the improved accountability because now it's not just you or your manager, but they're kind of self-policing one another in order to make sure everybody stays accountable. And you can do this if you do it right. You do it in micro learnings with a crisp daily 20-minute routine for more sales. There's something called the Ebbingham forgetting curve, which says you forget 77% of what you learned just 6 days later. So you've got to compile the ability that daily and weekly, we just teach small concepts that you can then apply. So step two, here's how we do that. We do that through the RevHeat Academy, which is where our courses live, our social stuff lives, our calendar lives for the training, the consulting, the coaching. And the RevHeat Academy provides us the ability to actually put everything in one place and harness the success of the team and actually helps to benefit them to move forward in a meaningful way that provides reporting to management and leadership so that they know that the investments are being used appropriately. And we do this in the RevHeat Academy, and then we also do this private label and white label for other clients. But we really have to have a technology base that's going to help you do this step. Next, make it repeatable and scalable. So one, deploy a sales blueprint and frameworks which create real value for the client and the sales team. It needs to be a transparent strategy across the organization so anyone involved in sales understands it, whether or not they're actually a quota-carrying member or not. This is a path for you to become a trusted corporate partner with your prospects and clients and provides a clear course on which you can win as many sales opportunities as possible. So this is how we exercise and the idea of some of the assets and things we use when we're talking about putting in a transparent process. We have things like the perfect discovery meeting, which is a 6-step process that you can follow in discovery so you always know where you're at and how to provide the most value for the client while also getting the most answers so you understand their true problem. In addition to that, we have the methodology, which I wrote a book on in Strategic Selling Unleashed, and that's our opportunity to close roadmap. And so that's a fantastic methodology that helps you improve your opportunities right away. And then we even have things that are client facing that are the frameworks that our clients use. And that is things like our needs brief. How do you build a business case that your champion or ambassador can then take to the decision makers when they blocked you out? So we have these types of frameworks and tools, and these are the types of things that are necessary for you to be able to accomplish that. Next, drive success early. And you have to be intentional about this. And you can do this by providing direct insights from experienced sales experts, i.e., you either get some help or you have to spend more time coaching. You have to spend more time analyzing the sales techniques instead of the deal. And the difference in that is you get off a discovery call where they schedule the next call and they go, what do you think? And you as a sales leader, manager, or enablement person goes, oh, it was good. And then you start talking about the deal and next steps instead of, well, tell me why you did this in the call. Why did this happen? Why didn't we go this way? What would you have done to improve it? You have to talk about the selling motions to improve them. And that should be customized, actionable guidance on actual sales scenarios. Must be reinforced during your pipeline reviews, and you've got to have a structure to do so. And then what's awesome when you put these things together is that whether you're the CEO or the sales leader getting funding, people are comfortable to continue funding the programs. This will elevate the skills in real world situations. How do we do that? We do that through a number of structured programs. So one is we might provide group coaching that does deal reviews and those types of things on Zoom. We might do one-on-one coaching with specific sellers and go through how they're applying the processes and how they're applying the things they're learning. And then we also have another place where we have groups. So say you have a smaller company and you don't want your people to feel like they're in it alone. We have another thing where we have groups where we can put a full group open office hours that people can show up to from any company at any time to ask about specific deals. Now, clearly we say, don't tell us the name of the client. Don't talk to us about specific pricing in order to make sure that it works for everybody. All right. And then the fifth step is that we need to optimize for winning sales. Too often what actually happens is we're concentrating on just collecting leads instead of converting sales. And it's a massive waste of money. We've got to focus on turning pitches into partnerships. So as Jason Trutman said, who's one of our previous clients, he said they've got to feel like you've put their shirt on, like you're wearing their company shirt so that you truly understand their problem. Remove the bottlenecks. Look for the bottlenecks in the different components of your sales process. Where are things getting stuck or not continued? This will help you drive more efficient sales. And what's awesome about this is that if your sellers get better, you get to cut back on spend while you scale up sales efficiency. If your overall team is performing at a higher level and carrying a higher number and doing a higher amount of sales, you don't have to hire the extra people. I would bet right now many sales organizations are overstaffed based on the lack of performance of their sales teams. So they hire more and more people thinking that they have a limit on how much each of those people can sell. And there might be a limit, but at the same time, it's probably not the one you think it is. And here's what this means. Think about it this way. Most companies don't break out their win rate on new logo versus existing accounts. But if we talk about new logo alone, where we on a regular basis improve your actual closing rate by over 300%, think about what this does. If you take a 10% net new logo rate, move it to 30, you can do 3 times more sales without more leads. And somehow this is the piece that gets missed. We'll go spend massive amounts of money on lead gen agencies and massive amounts of money on outsourced SDRs, and we'll spend massive amounts of money on marketing. And then we'll miss the thing right in front of us that's bleeding money. And that is optimizing for winning sales deals. How do we do that? We do that through our methodology called the Opportunity to Close Roadmap. And this is the actual results of a real client. And you can see it's a prescriptive, you may not be able to see this, but it is a prescriptive process that has a scoring system attached to it, which is what you see on the bottom axis. And so because of that, the higher the score, you can see the propensity for the deal to close or the win rate increases significantly. That's how you focus on converting and not just collecting leads. Here's what happens when you get it right. So Big Nerd Ranch had 2.5 years of declining sales. Their credit lines were maxed out. They were on the verge of bankruptcy before they started working with us. And then what happened? Well, $4.5 million in net new sales in the first 6 months, $12.2 million in sales in the first 18 months, 312% growth in 3 years, and 528% growth in 5 years. Can you imagine how that would feel? And I'll tell you what, they did it with the same amount of sellers. Let me say that again. They did it with the same amount of sellers that they were doing before the 528% growth, because they focused on converting rather than collecting. And then ultimately sold it to a New York Stock Exchange listed company. It was a great growth pattern and a great exit for that leadership and management. So here we come to it. You can get the most awesome report, the State of Sales Skills in 2024, Engineering Excellence, by messaging me skills on LinkedIn. If you're watching this on LinkedIn right now, you can literally just click my face and go straight to my profile after this. And in doing so, message skills, and I'll send you the State of Sales Skills 2024. The other thing you could do if you'd like is you can go to revheat.com / I always get those goofed up, skills 2024. revheat.com skills 2024. So you can go get that there. The State of Sales Skills, I promise you, it is the most awesome report you've seen. I've absorbed and taken all of these in for the last 25 years, and this by far is different than anything that I've personally ever seen. Now, with that being said, there's 2 ways that you can go about going from good to great or building the perfect salesperson. One's with and one's without help. So what I thought I'd do is just show you kind of our process, because our process actually allows you to exit at any time. And so it's a little bit different than what you're used to. You may assume that when you hire somebody like us, that you hire them and that you're in this long-term contract and all these things have to happen and there aren't exit points. So with us, that's not true. First, the sales team evaluation. That's the process we have to go through to set the baseline for where we are today. Where do your people rank in terms of sales percentile? And what are the specific attributes that they need to improve to be successful in your industry and company? From that, as we showed you before, the revenue acceleration roadmap is a part that comes out of that. And so that's the second step. Or you can take the evaluation and walk away and do it yourself, which is totally cool as well. So let's say that you continue down the road and you actually say, yeah, I want the revenue acceleration roadmap. Well, then you have a couple options there as well. One, we can help with course design. You may want something completely customized, white labeled, and perfect for your organization. We can help you with that course design. Or we can help you with sales training, consulting, and coaching. We can come in and we can actually provide that supplemental resource that you probably need because you're understaffed and under-resourced. Or your third option, after you've received the roadmap, is you can do it yourself. So you have another potential exit point. If we design the courses for you, help you implement them, put them in process, do the instructional design, we'll help transition it so that you can do it yourself. The sales training, consulting, and coaching, look, we don't believe in craziness. We have 3, 6, 12-month programs. Just depends on what you're trying to accomplish, what the size of the team is, what the actual things are that they need to improve on. And so we'll help you establish that up front with you. So that's the process with which you can see we go. And we don't mind if you want to get off the train at any given stop. But I'm going to make this a little bit more enticing, right? My team said, hey, what can we do? What are some stuff we can give away for free? So bonus number one, we're going to give you the revenue acceleration roadmap for free, which means you can get through step 2 with only paying for step 1. It's $7,500 value. The revenue acceleration roadmap is going to do everything from telling you how much more you can sell to exactly how your team impacts the sellers, whether or not they coach them, motivate them, recruit effectively, etc. And then we're going to give you a specific roadmap on the specific things that in your industry and your company will move the needle fastest. We'll give you a list of 20 different things that your sales team needs to work on in the order of importance, specific to you. And you can take that knowledge, build it, do whatever you want with it, or ask us for help. Doesn't matter to us. All you have to do to get that particular bonus is schedule a call, and I'll show you how in a second. We only accept 4 clients a month though, because it's a pretty large undertaking. So if you schedule a call, you can get the $7,500 revenue acceleration roadmap for free. Bonus number 2. So I'm excited about this. We're also going to give you personalized coaching outputs for each one of your salespeople, which we're going to actually show you where they fall and what it means if they have the will to sell, the desire, the commitment, what their mindset is doing to their sales to produce or sabotage great results. We're going to show you how they rank on their tactical skills, and we're going to give you the coaching advice so you know exactly how to have a higher impact with that team. This thing is awesome. And the way it works is this. It's a free coaching report for each one of your sellers, which is a $250 value per seller, meaning that for a team of 10, that's a $2,500 value. So we're going to provide that to you as well. And then, not quite done yet. The third thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to give you access to the sales talent acquisition routine. This is our hiring process that we embed in your company. We're not recruiters, but we have a rock solid process that's been based on research. This is a $5,000 value to access our STAR training, our sales talent acquisition routine. It's 91% successful at hiring stars. Think about that. What if you knew that every time you flipped the coin on hiring somebody, there was a 91% chance that they'd be a top performer? That's a bet you'd take every day. And we're gonna give this away to you just if you do something with us and schedule a call today. So let's recap that real quick. Here are the bonuses. Revenue acceleration roadmap, a $7,500 value. That's going to give you the specific roadmap that you need on the changes in your organization, the trainings, the technology, the systems and processes to create and build the perfect salesperson. We're going to give you access to the salesperson coaching reports, which are $250 per person. That's a massive value. And think about how much more powerful you, your managers, or leadership can be in working with your team. Third, the sales talent acquisition routine. It's a $5,000 value. Sales has the highest turnover of any industry out there at 30%. So for a $5,000 value, it's totally underpriced. We've sold this and we've helped people actually implement it for $15,000, $20,000, $25,000. It's a fantastic way to stop the turnover problems that you have and start hiring people who can be successful in your industry and company. This will give you the roadmap, the action items to attract, build, and retain the perfect salesperson for up to 70% off. That's awesome. How many times do you see that where somebody comes in and says, we're going to give you up to 70% off for stuff you absolutely 100% need? So excited about this. So schedule a strategy call, schedule a one-on-one call with me. We're not going to put you through to our seller or our sales team. We're not going to put you through to anyone else. You, because you attended this webinar, get me. So message me on LinkedIn, strategy call. You can text me at the phone number you see, or you can send me an email. But schedule a one-on-one strategy call with me. I can't wait to talk to you about what's going on in your organization and the things that you might be able to do in order to improve the effectiveness of your team. But remember this, here's one thing that we know to be true. Our data suggests and says you can build the perfect salesperson, and we'd love to help you. So thank you so much. I appreciate you being here, and I will be glad to answer any questions you have. If you want to message me, shoot me a text, give me a phone call like the old-fashioned days, or send me an email. There's nothing more that I'd like to do than just to talk to you and understand what are the challenges that you're facing. The truth is, I don't know you, you don't know me, so we may not be able to help. But what if we could? What if we could give you and your team more job security? What if we could give you and your team more confidence that you can outperform and outgrow your competitors? So once again, thank you for attending this session of Can You Build the Perfect Salesperson? The State of Sales Skills in 2024, Engineering Excellence. My name's Ken Lundeen, and I'm out of here. Everybody have a great day.